Welcome to Brewing TV. I am Chip Walton. This week we have a follow-up to a story we first brought you last November. News that homebrew author, Ninkasi Award winner, and all-around badass Jamil Zainasheff was going to open a brewery in the Bay Area of California. On a recent road trip to the region, Brewing TV visited that brewery. As you can see, it's still a work in progress, but the first brew day is not far away. In addition to checking out the facility, Jake, Michael, and I were lucky enough to taste some samples from Jamil's pilot batches. Join us as we tour Heretic Brewing Company, where it's just plain wrong to drink ordinary beer.
You know, people ask me all the time, oh, you should open a brewery. Why don't you open a brewery? Hey, you're not brewing your own beer commercially? Come on, open a brewery. Like, well, it costs millions. It's a huge amount of work, all the licensing, paperwork, just finding a place where they'll let you open a brewery is a lot of work.
This is where Jamil Zainasheff will hone his skills as a professional brewer. Pittsburgh, California, about 1 hour northeast of San Francisco.
But in the back of my mind, I always kind of wanted to, everybody wants to have their own brewery. It's like, that'd be really cool.
The 11,000 square foot building is home to the partner brewery of Heretic Brewing Company and the larger E.J. Fair Brewing Company.
I was here in September, came down, and I was checking out the place and seeing how they're progressing, and just happened to be talking to JJ, and I saw the space, and it just hit me. I'm like, you got way more capacity than you need. What about leasing it to me? And he's like, yeah.
While the two separate independent companies will share a 30-barrel brew house, they will each have their own brew days, ingredients, and packaging.
Similar to leasing a car. You can buy a car, take care of it, drive it. You need to be licensed and all that. And you need to get your own insurance.
Right.
Same thing with leasing a car. The difference is you don't really outlay all that cash to purchase the car up front. You just pay a monthly fee, and then at the end, you can always return the car or whatever. Same thing with alternating proprietorship. I still need all of my own licenses, insurance, and I'm going to be buying my own fermenters and kegs, things like that. It's, I think, a great way to get started because you don't have all that initial capital outlay that a brewery normally does.
Right.
Which would prevent me from starting. Without JJ and without this deal and the lease that he's offering me, I could not open a brewery.
E.J. Fair has a history in the Bay Area, including a new tap house and restaurant across the street from the brewery. J.J. Fair is the owner. His head brewer is going to be Chad Mosher.
The city has been really behind this and trying to develop it and has provided a lot of funds and resources to make this building happen.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that if you want a brewery or a brew pub to succeed, you got to have the support of your community.
Oh, absolutely.
It's the city, the people, the population, so it's really cool to see.
While I've been here working just a couple of days, I see people coming by. They're like, looks like you're getting a lot closer to having beer here. I was moving kegs, and they're like, oh yeah, it's good, exciting.
The day we visited, JJ was moving 30-barrel fermenters into the building, carefully dodging walls and wooden beams to get the tanks into place.
The forklift driver will shake the fermenter, and that helps agitate the beer, ensuring better attenuation. But the brewer is required to sit on top at all times for security reasons.
Oh, okay. And also control the fermentation temps, I would assume.
Yes. Yeah. He sits on it like a mother hen, and the heat from his posterior aids fermentation, keeps it controlled.
Interesting. See, these are the kind of inside things that you learn from Brewing TV.
These are some fermenters for E.J. Fair, and there's 4 30-barrel fermenters. Those just got moved in. They're not hooked up yet, but we'll run glycol over here and controllers, and that's be where he'll be fermenting. And then the Heretic fermenters will go over on the other side. They should be arriving in March.
Heretic Brewing Company will start off with 2 30-barrel fermenters. There's room for at least 3 more. Jamil's head brewer will be Chris Kennedy. Kennedy is also head brewer at Yak and Yeti in Colorado. He recently took a gold medal at the GABF for Strong American Pale Ale.
I think I'm really lucky in that I've got a lot of support from folks like the Brewing Network listeners and the whole community of homebrewers is really just passionate about seeing, I think, other homebrewers succeed at things like this.
Right.
And it's a great opportunity for me, and I really want to make sure that not only do we help support the homebrew community, but keep them as involved as we can. So one of the very first beers we're doing is actually a Pro-Am beer.
Oh, interesting.
So we already, we're not 100% solid on the other beers we're going to be doing, but one we know for sure. I've already bought the hops for is this Taffel Bully beer, which it's like kind of a strong table beer. It's very interesting from a friend of mine, Matt Staley, and he's going to come up and brew that with us, and we'll be serving that in San Diego at the Homebrewers Conference. One thing, I've been able to brew a little bit more now because at home to do some pilot batches and test some stuff out. And the reason I can now is because, well, it's for work. I got to get this done. This is all of a sudden, I can't shrug it off and say, well, that's for fun. I got to get my work done. And I really, I'm a pretty work-focused person. And this becomes work, and it's like, okay, yeah, but it was still a lot of fun to brew. So, that's one aspect of it. So that's actually helped on the personal homebrewing level. I don't know what'll happen later on, but for right now, I'm getting to brew a little bit more.
The large space you see here will be transformed into a tasting room. It was once the showroom for one of the nation's first Ford dealerships west of the Mississippi River. Soon, it will be filled with beer lovers.
Take it now. Yeah.
And this is where we get down to serious business, tasting, analyzing, and giving our 2 cents on what could become Jamil's first ever professionally released beers.
People have been asking, what beers are you going to brew? Oh, you're going to brew recipes from Brewing Classic Styles. I get that all the time. I'm like, no. I don't really want to do that. I'd rather do, different, more interesting beer. A lot of those beers, they're great recipes. I had a lot of fun doing them. They make very good classic examples of the different styles. But that's not necessarily what I want to brew for myself and for fun. And, I like those. But so I've been trying to come up with new recipes. And people are like, oh, sure, just come up with new recipes for the brewery. Don't use some award-winning recipe you already have. And to top that off, I'm trying to do things that normally I don't think would work.
Okay.
So this is one of those experiments. I believe that a lot of the Belgian phenolics don't really work that well with additional smoke phenolics. So a smoky Belgian beer a lot of times wouldn't be so great. So I'm trying to do a Belgian beer with a lot of Belgian character to it, mainly in the fruity aspects, and then add some smoke phenolics back and kind of a dark malty character, so kind of a smoky, dark,
interesting,
average strength Belgian beer. So this is kind of the first shot at that. So I haven't had a chance to really perfect these recipes, and this, I'm not sure if this is even fully carbonated yet. This just came out of the fermenter the other day. Wow. So this is one yeast I was trying. This is White Labs Antwerp yeast.
I'd buy this.
It all hangs together. That Antwerp yeast is really nice.
Right. It really produces a large malty character to it.
Yeah.
It really enhances the maltiness.
And it plays well with the Rauch malt. So is that spirit of experimentation, is that what's reflected by the name of your brewery, Jamil? A Heretic?
Well, Heretic, yeah, I think, a heretic is, someone that goes against, widely held beliefs or holds beliefs different than, something generally accepted by the majority of people. And one of the things that's generally accepted by the majority of people, especially in the United States, is that beer is, a light American lager. Those are beers, well-made beers, but they have a certain flavor profile that I don't find interesting. Those breweries know what they're doing, but it's not something I want to do. I don't consider that great beer. I consider that ordinary beer. And I think when you're a heretic, anybody who loves craft beer, you're a heretic. You're going against the wide-held belief that, beer is, American light lager.
Right.
We're all heretics.
Yeah.
And so whether it be an imperial IPA or an average pale ale or brown porter or whatever it is you're brewing or drinking, you are flying in the face of conventional wisdom in the world. The kind of beer you drink. This is, for me, it's homebrew. I get to do whatever I darn well please, and we'll see how it turns out.
So I mean,
Yeah.
maybe to rephrase that a little bit, I'm a pepper, you're a pepper. Wouldn't you like to be
Be
a
a
pepper
pepper
too?
too.
No, man, heretic. You can use that.
That's some nice packaging.
Thank you. Well, yeah, we're also quite unconventional in our packaging. You'll see these in stores everywhere. Unfortunately, it won't have our beer in it. This is the same word, but done with the Abbey Ale yeast from White Labs in this case.
Here comes the fruit.
Yeah.
Real fruit.
Absolutely.
And I was looking for yeasts that were more fruity balanced than phenolic, because I felt like the phenols are going to be provided by the smoke malt. So I thought this would carry the smoke malt better.
It's much drier.
It is much drier. I mean, this is a completely distinctly different beer. It's amazing how a yeast can...
You would think that the ingredients are different.
Right.
The other ingredients are different.
Exactly.
That I had a lot more malt of some kind, maybe Munich malt or something like that in that beer.
I really, really like this one. It's like an Abbey Brown. The Rauch is way in the background.
The first version where the malt kind of...
In the forefront.
In the
and
forefront.
fruits in the back.
And the fruits in the back, that to me was a more palatable experience. They're both great beers. It's interesting how two people can come to the table and say, well, I kind of prefer this one. The other one can say, well, I prefer this one. It looks like you're going to have to make both.
What can you show me in a standard American lager?
But this now is done with a Belgian strong yeast,
Okay.
also from White Labs. And this one attenuated much further. So the first beer was about 7% alcohol, and the second was about 7.5. This one's 9+.
Certainly the driest.
Peppery, floral. Alcohol's a little more apparent.
Right.
Yeah.
Less malty still. But it's got a really interesting balance. That rock malt's starting to come back a little more, along with the fruit. I like this one a lot.
Yeah. See, I think the Abbey is my favorite.
So does this recipe have a name yet, Jamil?
Still working on it.
All right.
And we've got a list of names that we thought were really cool. I just got to kind of match the name to the beer game. Yeah, that kind of fits. All right, so now we're switching over to something done with Yeast, with their Roselaire. The story is that Rodenbach, he went to England to learn how to brew. And 150 years ago, what they were brewing at the time was porter. That was the beer that they were brewing. They were aging it in vats, things like that. So he took that process back to Belgium and he began his brewery. And so that's why I think a lot of the procedures that they go through and the aging in the wooden vats and all that is very similar to that time. And I always thought, well, he's kind of brewing something very porter-like back then, and it's shifted over time. He's kind of, things had changed, but that's why they're doing the soured beer and then blending it back with unsoured beer, very similar to something that might have been done back then. The only difference is it's a lighter colored beer. It's not got any roastiness to it. And I thought to myself, well, really, what about, developing that idea of, couldn't you take that porter and, do kind of that Flemish thing to it, Flanders aspect. So this is a kind of my Flanders porter.
It's got this great black cherry nose. Gentle sourness. It's not
Is that
Not
harsh?
overdone.
Well, and a little hard to taste right now, but there's considerable Brett character in this as well.
Yeah.
I can smell it. Like having not tasted it yet, I can just smell it in this area.
I want to see how fast I could oak it and whether it would be horrible or, like it's sucking on a board, or would it really work? And it's actually got kind of a sweet note that balances yet again with that layer, and you get the sourness with the sweet, and you get the oak, and you get the chocolate, and you get the Brett, and you get the, So I kind of like this other one.
I do too.
I do
It's
too.
so intense, but
Yeah. This
like you
has a
said,
complexity
approachable.
that the other one does not have.
It's like
Maybe a different form of complexity, but this one is much more kind of the one sip.
Of course, at an ounce a liter, it would probably cost me about $20,000 this beer. And that's why I like starting at 30 barrels, because you have so much beer and so much capacity that you're not going to run out, and you don't have to upgrade so fast. But that limits you on doing small batch stuff. Now, if we can lay in some smaller tanks and we can do some main fermentation, then maybe oak age some and maybe throw some on some fruit or something like that, we could do that. But right now, I think like a beer like this, I'll just make 30 barrels of sour beer and maybe people will drink it. Maybe I'll pour it out.
The second of the sour beer is the one with a lot more oak. Definitely, to me, is what I'm looking for in a sour beer, a very complex experience. As I taste that, there's different things going on up front, in the back, and the lingering flavor. It's really just having a beer like that is why I enjoy good beer. I'm always going to have session beers around, like a pale ale, when I just want to have a beer. But when I'm looking to enjoy a really good beer, I'm looking for that complexity. And I think both of these beers, all the versions have had that complexity that I'm looking for. How about you, Dawson? What do you say?
Well, for whatever it's worth, I really like version 2 of the Flanders Porter as well. Like it's unlike anything I've ever had before, and the beer geek in me is sucked into that historical aspect of it. Like
Right, I love the historical
recreating
story,
what Alexander Rodenbach might have done after he came back from England in the 1800s, and it also kind of reminds me of the old slogan that Rodenbach had, like "C'est vin," like it's the Burgundy of Belgium. It's a wine like and intense, but it works. It hangs together so well. I'll look forward to your $20,000 worth of oak going into a
single batch.
fermenter.
Yeah.
And
It'll
then
be half oak and half beer.
my vote's going for number 3 of the first one, because I like the heightened alcohol with that strong ale. I like the idea that the Heretic is something that's going to make me a little weak in the knees, something I can cellar for years on end, and it's going to evolve and improve. And I also like the balance that's struck between the Rauch malt and the fruit
malt
notes of the
sweetness
yeast.
and the fruit and the spiciness.
But honestly, I would pay money for any of those iterations, I thought.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, with beers sampled, tasting notes compared, and video shot, Brewing TV's job here is finished. If everything goes well with the paperwork and permits, Jamil hopes to have Heretic Brewing Company up and running by early spring or summer 2011. Distribution will focus mainly on the Bay Area at first, but as Jay-Z mentioned, Heretic is planning on pouring their beers this summer at the National Homebrewers Conference in San Diego.
The feeling of possibility and potential is just super inspiring right here. I think it's cool to be behind the scenes, kind of ground zero as things are getting started.
It's not too often that you get to see a brewery in this stage, and it's not too often that you're going to be talking to someone like Jamil about his beers and be able to taste these test batches. I definitely feel privileged to see Heretic at this point in its lifespan.
I can't wait to come back when there's chairs.
Absolutely.
All for brew.
Brew for all.
Oh, that's good. One take.